One of the most powerful meetings that I would have every week would be my one-on-one meetings with my direct reports. In these meetings, I tried to make sure that I had thought through the environment before they came in. For instance, it needed to be conversational in environment. I wasn't trying to make it a formal space, no big tables, no heavy desks between the two of us. How could I make this as conversational as possible? Add coffee or tea, add some nice soft chairs or something in that environmental space to allow people to actually have a conversation. This conversation would then foster the ability to ask some really good questions to my direct reports, to my employees. And I asked 3 questions. The first one was, how are you and your family doing? Now, you may say, well, wait a second. This isn't a therapy appointment. This isn't this is business. We have to get to business, and we have to make sure that we understand business. I totally understand. But you need to understand, as you're working with your employees, that what's going on in their personal lives, what's going on in their family lives has an impact on the kind of work they're able to do. For instance, almost every single one of my employees who work for me during the period of time that they work for me had a new baby. A new baby is a big deal with a lot of work. And while we're moving toward both better maternal and paternal leave time to be with your family, recognize that even when that child is 1 year old and they're not sleeping through the night, that has an impact on your employee and their capacity to do their job. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't mean that, hey, your kid didn't sleep, so just go home and sleep all the time. What I am saying is this: if you know what's going on, you can start to figure out the rhythms and the routines that make it the best schedule, the best ways of working, and even start to understand when they're starting to burn out, get super stressed out, so that you can start making accommodations to head those things off before they get to the point where they're burnt out completely or stressed out and they can't pay attention to you. Why? Because if you look at the research, you will start to see that between being tired and being overstressed and almost to the point of burnout, employee effectiveness is down substantially. How do you improve this? Well, first thing is to know that it exists. And the only way you're going to know that it exists is to ask them some questions. How are you and your family doing? And here's the other key. To get the buy-in, to get the engagement that you need to with your employees, you're going to have to reciprocate. You're going to have to tell them about you and your family and get to know them. And as people have started to engage more on online, Zoom-type meetings, online meetings, they've started to ask some of those personal questions and start to get some insight into the person that they're talking to, not just as an instrument of the company to accomplish a goal, but as the human being who has thoughts and feelings, and those thoughts and feelings impact their work. They need to know that you're a human being as well, and that you have struggles and you have things that you're working through, and you have things that you're really excited about, and vacations and moments with your family. They need to see that as well. As you start to ask this question, recognize that this, in communication terms, is called phatic communication. It's the conversational communication, what we call small talk. But small talk is actually the grease that moves all other conversations forward, because it does the one thing that every leader, every manager must do with a team, and that is build trust. If I know where you live, if I know what you struggle with, I can start to trust you because you're a human being, not a corporate robot that is here to make sure that it's enforced all of the things and goals that the company has decided that it's supposed to do. You're a human being too. And now I start to trust you. And as I start to trust you, we can start greasing the process so that communication gets more effective over time, which means it takes less time to do some of this. Number 2. How are you feeling about your work projects? Now, some people will say, so this is the moment when you start asking about their work. I'm not actually asking about their work. In fact, I discourage people from telling me updates unless it's part of the discussion about how they're feeling about their work. You say, but I need to know what's going on with their work. We'll get to that in the team meeting discussion in the next video. Don't worry about that. Just think through how you're feeling about your work. What's frustrating you? What are you excited about? Where's this going? And where do you see energy? And what do you see growing? Where'd you hit a roadblock? What are the things that are stopping you from performing your best? When they can get to the point where they start being honest with you about how they're feeling about their work, And you can reciprocate on that as well. Here's what I'm challenged with right now, and here's what I'm struggling with, and here's what I'm excited about, and here's what I'm seeing. A good leader, a good manager starts removing roadblocks, removing things that stop people from doing their best work so that they can pursue forward into their greatest strength to meet the greatest needs of the organization. But that means you need to give them the resources to do their best work and remove all the obstacles that you can to do their best work. And you won't know that until you start hearing how they're feeling, because their feelings will tell you what they're running up against. Their updates might not tell you specifically how difficult something is or how exciting something is, but the feelings will. Ask them, how are you feeling about your work? Third question, what do you need? Specifically, what do you need from me? This is all about next steps. And you say, well, wait a minute, we haven't talked about work at all. No, but there are things you can do as a leader and as a manager to help them start to feel differently about their work, to start to remove obstacles and change things, or start to resource them in ways that are much simpler and easier to get them to more effective results. But you may need them to state clearly what it is they need. Sometimes they'll just tell me, I just need time. You know what actually I need? I need to actually get out of the office and go work somewhere else. I've had creatives who came to me and they said that they felt blocked. Like, I'm at a roadblock. I don't know what's going on. I can't figure it out. And I actually did things that some people might consider counterintuitive. I sent them to an art museum. You say, well, why would they go to an art museum when they're under? Because they need input. They need to see beautiful things. They need to see helpful things to get them back on track. I sent them to conferences. I sent them to meet people. I even sent them to other employees who were struggling with the same thing, and they started connecting with one another. But I knew that because I'd already been asking the questions to start to figure out, where are they? Which brings me to the last point. You will know that this is an effective one-on-one meeting when you get to levels of authenticity that are beyond just the surface. When you hear people saying that they're actually struggling with something and you encourage them to share those things, not because you're trying to be their therapist, but because you're trying to be their leader. And their leader needs to know where the people are at so that he can know how to help them move forward, move toward the goal. And there are a lot more things stopping them from getting toward the goal than simply a budget, a new desk, a new computer, slow internet. There are a lot of things here that can be done that are simple, but they require that person to trust you enough to be authentic with you. And you say, well, how do I get there? The answer is simple, but it's not easy. It means you have to be authentic first. It means you have to share the moments when you struggled with something. It means you have to tell them about previous experiences that you've had in the same space and how you work through some of them. Not as a way to say, well, I did it so you can do it, but as a way to say, I struggled, so I get that you struggle. There's a large conversation going on right now about leaders and their emotional intelligence and empathy. This is crucial to the future of leading teams, because deep down, you don't lead teams of machines. You lead teams of people, and they need an authentic person who is clear about their goals and clear about how you're going to get there. They need a human person who understands that they are humans as well, working to accomplish the goals that have been set before them. Until we get to levels and places as leaders and managers where we begin to think as humans, that we work with humans, we won't really ever achieve their best work, because we're going to continue to treat them like machines. And they will continue to distrust us as long as we do.